Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WrestleHorror.
Greetings, viewers and listeners. Once again, Meat Hook Jim here. Along with Donnie Hoover, we are the WrestleHorror Podcast. And on this episode of WrestleHorror, we're going to turn it over to our wives, the women of WrestleHorror, and their first guest, the queen of the silver screen, Katie Arquette. Katie, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. At this point in time, Donnie can say hi, and then it's up to the girls.
Hey, Katie, everybody. Yeah, we're real excited for this. We've been planning this segment, the Women of WrestleHorror, and they're their very first guest. So you guys just have fun and have at it.
All right, thanks, Donnie. I am Terry Hoover. I am one of the women of WrestleHorror. Donnie and I talked about this WrestleHorror concept where we had something to do with wrestling and horror because, I didn't like horror, but now I do. But Donnie loves horror. So we're excited to do the women's perspective of what goes on in the businesses and what we see and how we feel. And then I have Chris with me. How are you tonight, Chris?
Hey, Terry and Katie, I'm doing well. I'm Chris Millspaw, also known as the Ding-a-ling of Now Wrestling. And I'm the second part of the ladies of WrestleHorror. I am known as the timekeeper / ding-a-ling ring beller. Let's try this again. Bell ringer of Now Wrestling, and I absolutely enjoy my job. And I was there at the Ohio Fair and watching you and Miss Zoe have at it in the ring, ringing my bell. And so this is my first time doing a podcast of any kind. I've always been in the background of podcasts doing the production of everything. So if I ham it up a little bit or if I don't ham it up enough, please forgive me. I'll do my best.
Awesome. We got Katie here with us. How are you today, Katie?
I'm doing well. How are you both?
Good. I had the pleasure of meeting Katie at the Ohio State Fair here a couple months ago when she came and wrestled for New Ohio. We were very, very fortunate due to injuries and just people not being able to make it. And she was able to step in and fill a spot that we needed. And boy, did we luck out because you are one talented girl.
Oh, thank you.
So I see that you have been wrestling for a while. It looks like it was around 2017 that you started wrestling?
Yes.
Okay.
I can actually quote that date, February 25th.
Oh.
Yes.
So what brought you into pro wrestling? What brought you in?
Well, you're always a fan when you're a little kid, and my older sister, she's 8 years older than me, and she would watch wrestling all the time, and I would always slip into her room and watch it with her, but I asked way too many questions, so she always kicked me out, and then I unfortunately got out of wrestling for quite some time, which is probably why Kane is my favorite wrestler, because he's the first person I saw. So leading out of it, going into college, I started watching it. I had a couple friends who would watch it. And I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. And then I saw that Kane was still wrestling. And I'm like, oh, I remember him. I know who that is. So in college, I got back into it through, like I said, a group of friends. And they found a place to train, and they said, I think you would really like it. And I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I fell in love with it after that first tryout, and I made it, and I've loved it ever since.
That's awesome.
Was that with Chris LaRusso back then, Katie?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. And then I've seen what like with training, and what did you take out of training? What would be the best advice to somebody that would like to get into wrestling as a woman wrestler? What is something that you could, any kind of advice you could give somebody?
You definitely have to go in with an open mind. You have to just try. as long as you try and you don't give up. I mean, yeah, we reach our limit with, cardio, with athletics, with weight. Like you push yourself, but if you just keep going, and you take that second and then you just keep going more, then it's totally worth it. It's a whole nother experience. Just don't give up. If you give up, then this business isn't meant for you.
Yeah, you definitely have to have it in your heart and your passion to be persistent. Because I myself would never make it as a professional wrestler. I've ran the ropes before. No, that's not happening. No, you have to have it in your heart and passion and stick with it.
I've seen Terry run the ropes.
That was supposed to be a secret.
I was there. How can it be a secret?
What is one of your favorite matches? I've seen that you've done a cage match before. Is there a certain match that is like your favorite?
So I was on another podcast, and it was me and two other girls, and we got asked that question, and we're just like, well, I mean, there's this, and I went through a whole ramble. But after going through all that, I would have to say that for many different reasons, my favorite match so far, or at least it's in the top 5, would be against Kylie Ray at IWC in Pittsburgh. I believe it was last October. Her and I had a match, and she's just so talented, and she's so sweet to work with, and I learned a lot from her. I felt like we had a lot of good chemistry, and it seems so simple, so easy to just run the ropes and just go through all the different things that we did. So I would definitely say she is probably up there. Definitely one of my favorite matches I've had.
That's awesome.
Katie, can you tell us about when you took your current title, the OCW Women's Championship, with when you took on Laura Lovelace?
Oh yeah, that was a while ago too.
I know you've held it for quite so many years.
I know.
915 days now.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a while. I unfortunately haven't had the time to go back. I've been booked other places, and I've been very busy. But yeah, that match was intense. I remember there was a tournament to introduce the women's title, and I was a part of that, and I got through 2 rounds, and then I came back a couple months later, and it was me and Laura Lovelace at their anniversary show. Yeah. And I don't know, I just came in the same way I did at that tournament, and I said, you know what? It's going to be mine now. No one likes you. Haha. No, Laura's a good opponent. She puts up a good fight. She definitely knows her way around the ring, and it was a good match. There was a struggle, there was a fight. So I appreciate that. I respect that. So
cool. Right on. Okay. This is going to be left, center, turn right, and get lost. Are waffles really your favorite food?
No. Don't get me wrong. Food and I have a wonderful relationship. I love food. I love waffles. I have a sweet tooth just as much as I have a salty tooth. Like I love food, but waffles
that came up out of nowhere, and I saw that picture of you, women and waffles. It tickled me, and I had to bring that up. Right
yeah,
on.
No. I do love waffles though, but they're not my absolute favorite.
Okay. So how did you come up with the gimmick, Queen of the Silver Screen?
Oh, well, I mean, I love David Arquette. He's my uncle, so he definitely had a big influence. He's a huge fan of wrestling. So when
world champion and all.
Yeah, he loves wrestling. So whenever he was, just a celebrity guest on WCW, and then, he became champion, and they always call him like the worst champion of all time. Well, I mean, he was still a champion, and champions run in my family. So I'm like, you know what? Good for him.
All right,
that's awesome.
Terry, your turn.
She went with my next question with Arquette, and I had seen pictures. Let's see what else. What is going on? Like, you are currently wrestling with the IWC, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What's going on with your life with the IWC?
Well, I did have my entourage. I had my agent, Justin LeBar, and I had my fashionista, Calvin Couture. And apparently they took it upon themselves to go against me and decide to bring Rachel Bostic in as their number one. So I'm riding solo right now at IWC, and I think the fans have taken more of a liking to me against Calvin, especially since during my title defense match with Rachel a couple months ago, he decided to interfere and take my title belt and smack me in the head with it, therefore giving Rachel a much bigger opportunity to hold me down 1, 2, 3. But that doesn't mean that I still don't get a title rematch,
Right?
Because it was mine, and Calvin better watch out because he got a little full of himself last Friday at Wheeling Casino at IWC. So he better watch out because I'm going to get my hands on him at some point, and he should be very scared when he doesn't have my agent with him and Miss Rachel Bostic. So
yes, because it's personal now for you.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. So you did speak that when you were younger that you watched wrestling. Who was your favorite wrestler? I know mine back in the day, it was Razor Ramon. So there you go.
Mine was
I love
Kendall
Kane.
Windham.
Kane is my absolute favorite. I don't know what it was, but like I said, like I would sit in my sister's room, and Kane was the first wrestler I had ever seen come out,
so
like
old.
watching TV. So I don't know. It was like a love at first sight type of thing. I loved how he looked. I loved, his story, and I loved how he wrestled. And he'll always be my favorite, my first love.
Did that sort of help build your character? Because he was sort of the bad guy, and I noticed you're usually not liked.
Well, I, tend to do things the way I like sometimes. I haven't always made the best decisions, but they turn out in my favor anyway. But I am turning a new leaf. Okay. I am starting to, not do all the unaccepted things anymore. So
see how it goes.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. Take 1, take 2, take 3, as many takes as it takes. It'll be fine.
Say it lightly. So, Katie, what is your dream match? Who would you most like to get into the ring with?
So see, that's a tricky question. So when you say dream match, do you mean like, are they dead or alive? Does that play a factor?
Anybody. What is your dream match?
Well, in my dreams, I would love to wrestle Eddie Guerrero. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. He did so much. He was so inspiring and so motivating, and he was so talented. I would love to have gotten in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, but realistically, I would love to wrestle Lita. Although that might not be as realistic. She's just alive in this scenario. But I would love to wrestle Lita. She is one of my biggest idols. I fell in love with her just as much as I fell in love with Kane. And I would love to meet her and to get the chance to step in the ring with her.
Right on.
I totally agree. I went to so many ECW shows to watch her. I just love Lita.
She's amazing.
Yes.
Girl power there. At the Ohio State Fair with Zoe, about that match, how did it come about?
Well, Zoe it seems like she's been in that area before. They all know who she is. So I needed to make myself known that I'm also here and that I'm also just as wonderful, if not more wonderful. But Zoe does put up a very good fight. She's definitely one of my favorite competitors to get into the ring with because she makes it fun and quite interesting.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I admit that I am not a horror fan, but
Thank
I
you.
gave it a chance. Have you ever had an opportunity to maybe, because we both have been haunt actors, and it's another way to perform. Have you ever thought of doing something like that before, or do you like anything scary or anything like that?
Oh, I love scary things. Halloween is my favorite holiday. I love horror movies, but I like when horror movies make sense. That's one of the most difficult parts about horror movies is they don't always make sense. They end up becoming very funny and not serious.
Yes.
But I would love to be a part of some type of horror film one day. That would be amazing.
Okay. Speaking of horror movies, what's your favorite horror movie, or do you have one?
Well, I have a favorite series. I don't necessarily have a favorite movie, but it's Saw. I love the Saw movie. I mean, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy about gory movies, but I love the story that it tells. Granted, the last couple movies were a little stupid in the beginning, but unlike most, at least horror series, they tend to like lose track and they kind of like do their own side levels of a story. The Saw movies connect the whole way through. And if you've seen them, you know exactly what I mean by one specific person. It all connects and it's the same story. So I love Saw.
They seem to keep my attention too. I don't know. There's a thought process with it. You're always watching and trying to connect everything.
Yeah. It all blends together eventually, little by little.
Do you like professional haunted houses?
Oh, I love haunted houses.
Well, that's pretty cool. All the four of us actually have participated and or owned in a professional haunted house. Jim and I have a group of professional actors that work in professional haunted houses, so we get paid to scare you. So my living room is nothing but one big piece of Halloween 365. My daughter actually sat and counted the number of skulls in our living room. We're pushing 70.
That's funny.
So have you been to any ones that you like a lot? I mean, out there by you. Are you in Pennsylvania still?
Yes, I'm in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I didn't mean you to actually say that. I know you were born in Pennsylvania.
Actually, I was born in North Carolina. So.
My bad.
Yeah, but no, I live in Pittsburgh, PA right now. But no, I can't think of there. We have a good bit like scattered within like a 30-minute radius all around. I honestly can't think of any right now, but like there's the Scare House actually.
Right on.
There's the Scare House, which is really good. It's a good one to go to. And then there's several others. I think PB Smooth actually had a birthday party celebration at the Scare House last year for his birthday, and that was so much fun because we knew we all got in for free because we know the media people, so they take part in putting all the film together and being behind the scenes. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Terry,
let's go back to wrestling.
Back over to you.
Yeah, because I know more about wrestling. Katie, do you notice any difference between, or what's the toughest thing you found with being a woman wrestler, with men wrestling? I know as a promoter, sometimes they don't look to me, they straight go to Donnie. And I just know sometimes they're like, does she really know what she's talking about? Have you found anything that you've just is tough as being a woman wrestler?
Yay, Haley.
I mean, it's always difficult being just a female in general with certain things. It's always like male dominated a majority of the time. But with wrestling, surprisingly, it's not as bad as you would think. Like, I mean, at least the saying used to be there's not as many of us, so we're more valuable. But I mean, we're definitely getting up there. There's definitely a lot of us now. But I guess the most difficult part would be, though, is just getting on a show sometimes, because some promoters, not all, but some promoters, they're like, oh, we don't need women's wrestling. And then with some promotions, they don't like intergender wrestling because, well, a man could always beat a woman. But at the same time, if you tell the right story, it's very possible that it could be realistic. So the challenge is trying to uphold the idea that a woman could beat a man. But I mean, if you look at some of the women's wrestlers, we're not little skinny things. Some of us are big and very muscular. Like we probably could beat you in any type of fight, any type of situation. So I think that would be the biggest challenge, is just trying to, get ourselves over, trying to be, convince you enough that we have what it takes. Take us seriously.
There you go.
So
yeah, definitely. Because were you athletic before you got into wrestling? Because I wouldn't be athletic enough to do it. I mean, because I know you have to train. Like, were you athletic before wrestling, and how do you train?
Yeah, so I've always been into sports. I'm always hands-on, easygoing. Like I did softball a majority of my life, like t-ball all the way up until high school. I think I did like every sport you could think of other than basketball because I'm short. So I didn't attempt that. But like swimming, track, cross country, not field hockey, but just like deck hockey, you name it. I tried it all. And
Awesome.
with wrestling, it just came natural because I wouldn't call myself like a full like grown athlete where like I had a scholarship where I had people scouting me. No, but I've always been sportsy and athletic enough to, when I went to my tryout for wrestling, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I mean, it was definitely difficult, but it wasn't as hard as I like pictured in my head, which made me feel like I was ready. Like I was prepared for this. So, and then, just training in general, like, you go down to the ring, you do some drills, you get your cardio, your in-ring cardio, because there is a huge difference between having cardio and having in-ring cardio, because I could run the ropes for 5 minutes straight, and then I could go on a treadmill for 60 seconds and like pop along. Like there's a huge difference. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication, but it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can tell a story, you get the crowd involved, you're very talented, you have, you are athletic, so kudos to you. You're great.
Thank you.
I agree. My daughter's this close to starting her training, and I'll have to tell her that.
Oh, yeah. Yay.
She goes to a camp on the 12th, and then she starts with Cody Hawk just after that.
Nice. That'll be fun. That'll be good for her.
She's worried that she's not going to be able to hang in there, but
keep going. Keep going. Unless you truly feel this isn't something you want to do, make that your reason, not because
she's been talking about it for 6 months. She's in it. She's in it to win it. I'll show you this video because it'll be.
She did a fantasy camp at the Arnold to see what it was like, and
she came away bruised and was still happy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll have to show her this as an uplifting video. Okay, I'm out of words.
Lucky for you, I'm not.
Oh, hush. You big show off.
So, since the girls have had their chance, Katie, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. What is the best way for people to follow you via social media, website? or have people who want to book you for their shows, promoters and such, what's the best way to get a hold of Katie Arquette?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I have a page to follow me, just Katie Arquette. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram, it is at the Katie Arquette. And on Twitter, it is at the KT Arquette. So there's no AIE in Twitter. So, but you can definitely reach out to me there, follow, like, reshare, retweet, all that fun stuff.
And is there any way where people can see some of your matches? I know matches get posted. Is there a YouTube channel or anything where?
No, I don't have a YouTube channel, but you can find all my matches on YouTube. You can even Google me, and I'll pop up.
And I think I'm going to ask for Donnie here. Hopefully we'll see you next year at some Now events.
Yeah, yay. I would love that.
Of course, I might be stepping on Donnie's toes here. He's the promoter.
No. Oh, absolutely. We'd love to have her back for the Arnold, the fair.
Absolutely.
Yep, be a part of the crew.
Welcome to the Now family.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Donnie, do you have anything for Katie?
I do. I'm sort of offended a little bit.
Uh-oh.
You said your favorite series was Saw, and I would be 100% certain you was going to say Scream.
Well,
I think maybe David would be too.
Yeah, right? She said Saw. I was like, what?
No, to be fair, Scream, when I was little, I never really watched scary movies because, they're scary. I don't want to watch it. But my first scary movie was Scream, and Scream was my very first horror movies that got me to liking scary movies. So,
oh, see, there you go. It did its job.
Yes. It's a first love. It's like Kane.
Well, I will say that as far as the Saw movies go, you're absolutely right. They tell one entire story that comes full circle. I drove Chris crazy watching it because she just didn't.
You have no idea. Day in and day out, I'm like, I'm going to go to the bedroom because I cannot stand to listen to this movie one more time.
I binge watched all 8 movies.
That and Star Wars.
I binge watched the Saw movies in 2 weeks. Actually, I think it was like a week and a half because I was in, I think, 9th grade, and I was going away to camp on Sunday, and it was Thursday, and I'm like, I have 3 more movies to watch. I have to watch them all. I have to get through them. But I can't leave going to camp for a week and not know the very last movie.
So one other question relating to horror and Halloween and such. You said that you love horror movies, you like going through haunted houses. I'm just going to throw this out there. If there's any weekend you'd like to go haunt and scare people, I got your hookup.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That'd be fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a different, there's a lot of, that's why we have WrestleHorror, because we feel that they both kind of intertwine in some way, shape, or form. And you see in pop culture, you see a lot of wrestlers, you see a lot of horror in the same venues at the same conventions. So that's where Donnie and Terry came up with the WrestleHorror idea, and they asked me to come along for the ride. And yeah, you're our first Women of WrestleHorror guest.
Yay! Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank
We'll
you.
hope to have you back again sometime.
Yeah.
Last words, Donnie, Terry.
Thanks everybody for coming on and doing this. Like I said, it's always a good time when we get on here and do these podcasts. And so just everybody keep paying attention to us out there or WrestleHorror. And we'll just keep doing these podcasts and try to get more and more guests on as we go along.
And hopefully we'll follow up with Katie in the future and see what's happened in her wrestling life. And until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to our guest, Katie Arquette, the queen of the silver screen. And this is the WrestleHorror Podcast, and we are out.
Make sure you follow us on all of our social media outlets. Facebook.com/WrestleHorror, Instagram at WrestleHorror, Twitter at WrestleHorror, on our YouTube channel, the WrestleHorror channel. Also, you can find us at www.wrestlehorror.com.